bravely creating with wild abandon that which sets our hearts on fire. Welcome to Grace on Fire. I am so honored, so grateful, and so blessed and excited to introduce our guest tonight, Grace on Fire. This is the most beautiful and gorgeous woman, and her name is Robin Wiggins Towle. She is Mrs. International 2019. Welcome, Robin, to Grace on Fire.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for having me here. I feel so privileged.
Robin, what led you on your journey of humanitarian work?
Well, my platform is suicide prevention, and that started me. I had a son who went to a high school where we lost 8 youth to suicide, and my son became depressed, and it was an extremely hard period in my life, and so that started me looking for ways to help our youth, and I created a nonprofit called Wolfpack, which teaches positive life skills to our teenagers and offers them service opportunities. And the service opportunities have just branched out, and I've had the opportunity to do lots of different service opportunities, but my journey began with the struggles. Like so many people, I wanted to turn my pain into purpose, and so here I am.
Wow, that is amazing and so needed right now on the world and in the planet. And this, would you like to share the website for your Wolfpack?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
You can check in at signwolfpack.org and send a message if you're interested in learning more about it, and I can forward you a curriculum. And it's a really neat thing. It's something for all age groups. I wrote it directly for teens, but as I've been writing it, it has helped me to grow, and I've seen how it can help from little kids to adults, and it can help families, individuals, schools, mom groups. So it has a huge variety of ways that it can be used.
Wow, thank you for that. And we need more of that in the world. So Robin, this is International 2019. Tell us about some of your humanitarian projects you've been doing this past year.
Well, as Mrs. International, I started my year going to visit legislature and trying to promote change in suicide prevention and help them get more acquainted with what's involved and what they could do to help their states. So I started my journey off there, and then I have traveled to 8 different countries, one being Vietnam. And while in Vietnam, I joined a charity group, and we were able to go to a underprivileged community. They actually don't have any roads or any streets, and they travel only by boat. And the service group I was working with was put in their 12th bridge. So I was able to go for the ribbon cutting of their 12th bridge, and we took clothes, school supplies, and food to that neighborhood. And that was just such a wonderful experience. The people of Vietnam were amazing, and it was an experience I'll treasure forever and plan on going back and doing more work there. A second humanitarian project that I did is I have a good girlfriend who started Families Mentoring Families in Ghana, Africa. And so my family went over, and we did so much work there. We painted a school. We got to meet the chief. We took school supplies to the schools, and we visited orphanages and played with the children and took toys and games for them, and just had such a remarkable trip there. It's been very eye-opening to see the different cultures. And the thing I think I was most impressed with was the more poverty-stricken countries that I visited were the ones that were the happiest. And it was just amazing to see their spirit and their happiness. And I think a lot of it has to do with when you are in need, you rely on your community. So the sense of community was so strong there. So I've been able to do, those are a couple of the projects that I've been able to do. And then with suicide prevention, I am licensed to train QPR, question, persuade, and refer. And I can facilitate 30 people in this training, which teaches people how to confront someone, approach someone who they feel is suicidal in a non-invasive way, and not to be afraid to come out and ask, and to help them get help. So I've been training, held some trainings for that, and I've gotten lots of speaking opportunities. I've spoken with the Hope Squad, which is for our youth for suicide prevention in the schools, and I've spoken with NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness, and I've just had some wonderful opportunities as Mrs. International to share my message of suicide prevention and to broaden out my humanitarian works.
I'm so inspired. That's so beautiful. I'd like to have you come to John's place and start doing those there.
I'd love
Provide that. The more people, I truly believe that the more people we can get to assist these young people or any age who's suicidal and feeling that desperate, to have, I know we have lots of hotlines and things, but the more people we can train, and even parents and leaders in the community, to have these correct questions and know the correct way. I wouldn't really know exactly the correct way to handle it. I was on a hotline when I was like 18 for a couple of years, 18, 19, but I never got any training. So I think that's a really great thing. Of all the wonderful things you're doing, they're all wonderful, but that's great. And the humanitarian projects as well. I look forward to doing some with you, with our nonprofit, because it's bringing a lot of love and joy to people that really need it. And I think sometimes we get more out of it than them at times.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It just makes humanity kinder as a whole when we provide humanitarian projects and service for other people. It just brings our whole world, one world, into more peace and love and kindness, understanding and respect for each other when we do serve.
We need more people like you. So Robin, we were talking about the humanitarian work, and you had gone into several different very impoverished communities. And one of the things that was the most exciting to me to hear from you, and I've had a different experience actually. I've had varied experience, but you had said that some of the poorest, most extreme poverty were the happiest of people.
Yes.
And so I'd like you to just expound on that a little bit more.
Well, after traveling like I have, I thought, oh, I wish I had been an anthropologist and just gone and studied, and learned what makes people happy. And I know I've read about an anthropologist who actually did, and she found the same thing that I saw. But like in Vietnam, the people were on the streets and they had each other. They had the connection daily. They had the street vendors. And then at night, they were all eating on the streets, had their buying food off the street and sitting there with like they'd have like little benches that they put around, and they just sit there at night and eat together. And they were so welcoming and happy. And, I know that it's hard for them, like life is hard, but they have a connection as a community that some of the other countries that I visited were very isolated. They didn't come out, they didn't interact, and it wasn't as connecting as the countries that were more impoverished. And so I was wondering about the country that I live in, the U.S.
Yeah.
And where we're headed, because I think we are headed more into being more isolated in our homes and in our own things. And unfortunately, I feel like we're really driven with our agenda that we're missing the connection.
It's beautiful, Robin. It's beautiful. And I think the link to the happiness, because I've been to a lot of very third world impoverished communities, and one thing I have seen is that they're less happy. The children just don't look as good. They're just not thriving. And it's just so, even the babies, you just look at them and it just breaks my heart. And I think with a difference, like you've said, is community and coming together. So those those poor communities that are supporting each other and coming together, they're still happy. They have that happiness, which is so beautiful. We know that money doesn't bring affluence doesn't bring happiness. It's definitely not the key. There's a lot of affluent people that are very sad,
Yes.
some very impoverished people that are very happy. And so the difference is the community, because as I look back at some of those areas where the children didn't look as good, they were more isolated. It was very rural, so there were little houses kind of separated apart, and there wasn't that community connection. We'd go out to the very rural areas to bring supplies and food, and that is the difference, bringing that community back, and bringing that community back to our country, because I think that, like you said, there's many countries today that are very isolated with technology. People could sit for hours playing video games and be alone, or maybe with a virtual friend. But bringing community back,
that's actually my next movie. Yeah,
well,
bringing community back, because I look back at like my high school days, and we would cruise up and down and pull over in parking lots and talk, and we had a place to go eat, and my children had none of that. They didn't really have a gathering place, and it was, and I know, when you put a lot of teens together, you have issues, and so that's probably why. But, as a community and families, we do need to be providing that for our children so that they're fulfilled and that they don't want to be on devices all the time.
And that create isolation, which creates addiction and suicide. And this is what because John struggled with loneliness at times, and that's why he founded One World Community and One World Humanity and of course, John's place, it wasn't going to be John's place, it was just going to be a fair trade juice bar and cafe, but I named it John's Place after he passed. And he knew that we needed to come together as community. As community, come together. And part of One World Community is supporting Center for Awakening, which is the global outreach for youth. And so we have a lot in common, coming together in community, bringing support to communities that are in need. And together that just makes a better world.
Well, I think John set a great example for other people who feel lonely or feel disconnected by creating something. I think, a lot of times in my children's life, when I have seen them be alone, they feel insecure to create something. And creating, we are here for creation. That's what we're made for, is for creation. And if we're not creating, we're not happy. And so creating that society, that connection that was needed, I would just try to ask people who are struggling, don't be afraid to create a community for yourself, to create help. And a lot of times, you feel uncomfortable creating something, but if you're doing it to help other people, you get the power from beyond you to help you do it.
Absolutely. And you're creating it together. And when you come together as community to create something and join your forces and join that passion, having a purpose. People have to have a purpose. If you're in life and you have zero purpose, it's hard to really be inspired by your day-to-day life. So coming together as community and having a purpose is what can inspire greater things in the world. And creating that, what John always tells me is heaven on earth. We're bringing heaven to earth. We're bringing heaven to earth. That's what we're doing. We're bringing heaven to earth. We're creating that peaceful, thriving, and free world for all humans as equals.
Yes. Well, abundance. So the law of abundance, I think in our society, we are all getting to where we think there's scarcity. There's not enough for everyone. If my friend is achieving this, I can't support them because I'm not going to have the support I need. And that's so far from the truth. The more that we support each other in our endeavors, the more we raise each other up, the more abundance we are going to have.
For all. Yes. Coming together cooperatively as community and rather than competitively. So it's win-win. The tide comes in and all boats rise.
Yes.
And we all rise as a humanity. I think that's our next evolutionary step. And we spoke it right here today.
I'm excited for it. It's time.
It's time. Thank you, Robin.
Okay, thank you.
So last question I want to ask you is, what inspired you to be Mrs. International 2019, Robin?
You know, it's funny. Things start a lot when you're a little child, and when I was like 8 years old, my sister said, "There's a pageant coming to town, our first one in our small little town." And she's like, "We're gonna put you in it." And so I got a talent and got all ready, and we entered me in, and I turned 8 like a month too soon. So 8 years old, and so they were like, "She's too old, but she can be our entertainment." So my cousin and I learned a John Travolta dance where he flipped me over his back and pulled me through his legs, and we did the pretzel, and we were such a hit that we ended up touring the state for 2 years, performing for different organizations. And so that sort of spun my love for dance, but that little pageant thing was always like in the background. And the interesting fact is that I entered some pageants in high school and college and was only ever a runner-up. Like, I never won any pageant at all until I was 48 years old. And so don't give up on your dreams, because it's all timing. It's, and had I won when I was in high school or college, I would not have been as passionate. It would not have meant as much, and I would not have had this drive and motivation behind me. I probably wouldn't have appreciated it as much as I did when I did win, because I had been like those little cars that you rev up and you hold them and then you let them go. I was ready to go by the time I was 48.
Oh, it's so exciting. And you're ready to go now. And it's just the beginning for you, Robin. It's just the beginning, because with all your passion for the humanitarian work, you are on your way to doing a lot of great things. It was timing. It was destiny. We are so grateful to have you on the planet, to have your influence, your love, your work for humanity. We just want to thank you so much for being here on Grace on Fire, but more so being here for the world and for those in need, and forwarding your humanitarian efforts and bringing that to the planet. It's what we need more of, and I'm grateful to that, and I know the world is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you for having me and for spotlighting my work and helping me continue to take it forward. I appreciate it.
Is there a Facebook page or a website? You mentioned the Wolfpack website. Is there a Facebook page where people want to know more about you or follow you?
You can follow me on Mrs. International 2019 on Facebook and robintowle.com.
Perfect.